Hear me? Okay, great. Okay, I'm Nancy Katie, and I may have spoken with a lot of you on the phone or by email. I have to say I really love when we get to have a training and meet people face to face. I probably won't remember everybody's name in your church, but I see it so often that it's kind of nice to see the faces. So. And I really want to thank everyone for being here today. It really helps Krista and I a lot. This is Krista Darrow. So a lot of you have also spoken with Krista and talked to her, phone and email both. But it really helps both of us that you're here because we're really excited about this new process, but it's lots of detail. And sometimes when people miss the trainings, then we have phone calls and we have to go through all of the detail. And it just gets really lengthy over and over and over again. So this helps us so much that everybody's here. So we really appreciate you making the effort to be here today. The thing that I wanted to start with, what we're going to tell you about, I like to think in concepts, and it kind of helps me with the big picture part. So we are going to cover how it is that you get started with a software that is the local church online process that's going to help you with that. So a lot of excellent details that I think you guys will be able to use. And one thing I wanted to be sure and remember to tell you, so I'm going to say it first. An exciting thing about today is we have gone through the registration list of what churches you all are from. And there's about 80 different churches represented here. We have, I think I'm going to say 20 churches or so that have already gone through using some of the software. So we took those out of the 80 if some of those folks are here. And this afternoon, our IT person will be launching your process for you. And we're going to go through and explain how that's going to happen. But I just want to let you know that as far as you all being able to get started with the software, it's coming like today really soon. So I was thinking that that's kind of a reward for you all coming. We really appreciate your patience. I wanted to say that with the software. And like Chris and I would talk, and we'd work with our IT person, and we'd say it's going to be ready on this and this date. And we kind of thought that's what we thought. But we're learning a lot about how the software part works. And I think the good news is that we did have about 20 churches that have gone through these first steps we're going to show you. And so because it's new software, there have been like little glitches or bugs. But and it was interesting because we'd have 5, 6, 7 pastors and it'd go really smooth. Then the 8th, 9th, or 10th pastor, maybe there'd be a little thing that was different that would come up. And so our IT person would have to reprogram and kind of smooth that out. I really wanted to share that perspective with you so that you can also understand that it's new software, which I think is super exciting because it tells you how innovative we are being. And this is the first conference, Sherry may have shared that, but it's the first conference in the country that's doing this. We regularly get phone calls from other conferences, churches from other denominations that want to know about our online process. They Google us, and find us on the internet, and they're like calling us like crazy. This is what I need. How do I go about doing this, And just so that you know, we've been working on online processes for, 5 years at least. So this is like another leap, light years ahead of where some churches and conferences are. And I still see you all as kind of part of the pioneer group because the software is new. And so I think it's really exciting. But I just want to, just remind you and kind of ask for your patience. If you do find a bug or a glitch, Chris and I are working, and we'll respond to your emails and work with our IT person, and we'll work through them. I think that those should be pretty minimized now because we had a group that already went through. But I just wanted to kind of make you aware of it in case you see things that go on, and just be patient and know we're working with you. Our IT people are really responsive. They get back to us, I would say that same, like if it's in the afternoon, that same afternoon, usually within an hour or two. They're really, really good. That's outstanding support. So I think we have a tremendous opportunity that we're going to share with you today. So the big concept that I want to tell you about is we're going to go over how you get the software is going to start with a couple things. Some of you may have seen our next steps list, and that was what we had been getting out to people to guide you. Where do you go? How do we get going on this? We have, I think, approximately or over 800 churches in the state, so we decided we couldn't get everybody to send all of their information to us by paper. We wouldn't be able to handle that very efficiently. So our software is going to enable us to handle things like receiving your utility bills and stuff like that. So some of you, we've already got those, and we've got branch accounts set up, so we're in different phases. The first step to get this kicked off, besides the next steps list that some of you had, is that it starts with your pastor officially designating an LCA. So that's kind of the first phase, the first step that's going to happen. And we're going to explain how that will happen, and we have that in an online website software kind of process. The second part is you all as LCAs, for the ones of you that are LCAs, the second part is how you will receive an email. So the pastor is going to officially designate you through the website and the email, and it'll generate an email to you all, and then there'll be steps that you can do through the software, and that's how it's going to proceed. So I was thinking today, if we had a diagram, we'd have the pastor step, and then we'd have an arrow flowing over to the LCA step, and then there's several things within the LCA's web processes that you're going to be able to do. You're going to be able to upload your policy, your utility bill. If we haven't received that yet, we'll receive that. So we're going to explain all that detail. But those two steps, it's really dependent on the pastor and the LCA, and probably some communication between you all. The first group, I've been trying to send emails to the pastor saying, or to the email saying, your pastor has now designated you so you can do your steps. Once an LCA is approved, I've been trying to send an email saying to the LCA and the pastor, you guys are approved. So we'll see how that evolves over time, but I'm trying to help promote communication between you all, but I might just plant that seed that probably talking to each other as we move through this will be helpful. Okay. Another kind of neat thing is we have videos that the IT people put together that go through the steps. And so we're going to play one of those. And the first one is the pastor video. So the pastor is going to receive an email that's going to tell them what to do. I think we need...
Welcome to the Mission Connect Protect video demonstration of designating a local church Safe Sanctuaries associate. From the Safe Sanctuaries login page, enter your username and password. Click Login. You will be directed to the home page of the application where you will find your username, a button allowing you to manage the email and password associated with the application, and two primary sections. The first section indicates your Safe Sanctuary certification along with any history or prior certification. The second section is where you can name the local church Safe Sanctuaries associate for each church. One or more churches may be available in the grid for selection, but for the purposes of this example, we will only have one. Click the plus sign or Add New LCA button below the grid. Select the desired church in the first drop-down if more than one is available, and click the Find Add Person button. When the Find Add form opens, it will automatically populate with all of the persons related to your church who are already in the database, as shown here in the Person Search Results grid. If the person you need is not listed, click the Clear button, then enter the last name of the person you want to find. If the last name is a common name, you may try narrowing results by entering the first one or two letters of the person's first name as well. Click Find Person. From the results, select the desired person and click Confirm Selected Person. The Find Add screen will close and you will be returned to the home screen with a new user account window. Since the selected LCA, Matthew, does not have an account, his email address will need to be entered and confirmed here. Click Save. Confirm the newly added LCA is in the grid and click Save in the lower right corner below the grid. An email successful alert will appear informing you that an email with user login account information has been sent to your designated LCA. Click OK. If any additional churches need an LCA designation, you may select the Add New LCA button and repeat the person selection process again. Once an LCA is designated for a church, the grid will indicate in process as the LCA status. An account information email will be sent to the LCA and provide them with a link to log in to Safe Sanctuaries and proceed with their certification steps. When you are finished with your selections, click Log Off in the upper right corner of the application. Pastor, thank you for entering your LCA information. Please inform your LCAs that they will receive an account information email with a link to log into Safe Sanctuaries and proceed with their certification steps. Thank you again for your participation. Please watch for further updates as the online implementation process progresses.
Pretty straightforward. I think it's pretty easy. In your handouts, you have a copy of these screens. On page 4 is the email that the pastor receives, and it says the steps, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 are the steps of what they need to do. And also, there's a link to the video. It's about, from the bottom, it's 1, 2, 3 lines up, how to designate an LCA for your church. So that video that we just watched, in the pastor's email, they will get that video plus those steps. So I think there's pretty good instructions for them to be able to go ahead and click it, and it's pretty straightforward. Also, each pastor will receive a unique login under number 3. They're going to get their own pastor username and pastor, like a password, that they'll use to do this process. So they each get their own unique email. Okay, any questions about that? That's pretty clear? Pretty good? Okay. On page 5 is copies of that screen that we saw. Page 6, it shows the Add LCA button you can see there. I'm just going to reinforce here that where it says My Certification Records, when the pastor logs in, they're going to be able to see their certification history, which is going to be kind of a nice reminder to them. They'll be able to see right away, for example, in this one, that Dorothy Gale, her certification expires in 2013. And they'll also be able to see if it happened to have expired a month ago or something, is a reminder that they need to go ahead and get theirs renewed. Page 7, that's where they selected the church. Page 8 shows at the bottom there's the Confirm Selected Person button when they highlight that. Page 9 was the login. Page 10 really is that there's a Save button that they have to use. Page 11, that the email was sent to the LCA. One teeny glitch that came up during our sort of trialing this was make sure that the pastors have your right email, because some people, between the pastor and the LCAs, think there was some miscommunication. So that's important. Some people, we're frequently changing emails these days, so that would be a good reminder. I think we're ready for video 2, which is going to be, I'm sorry, it's going to be called video 1. It's our second one for today. But it's going to be on the LCA. So this is when you all get your
Welcome to the
email.
Mission Connect Protect. Welcome to the Mission Connect Protect video demonstration of getting started as your church's local church Safe Sanctuaries associate. From the LCA details email sent to you, under Step 1, click on the provided link to be directed to the Safe Sanctuaries login page. Once at the login page, enter your username and password, then click Login. You will be directed to the home page of the application where you will find your username, a button allowing you to manage the email and password associated with the application, and a listing of your certification records. At least one and possibly more of these will have a Continue button on the right. Each record with this button needs your attention. If you do not hold a current Conference Safe Sanctuary certification, then you must complete this step first. Click on the Continue button for the SS Online Process record and proceed with the outlined steps that are not yet complete as shown by the active Begin This Step button. This process may take up to 2 weeks depending on various circumstances, so it's best to begin these steps right away. Once you have received your Conference Safe Sanctuary certification, either new or previous, click on the Continue button for the local church associate record. Notice the completion of your SS certification is represented by the green check mark in Step 1. The next step is your agreement to the LCA covenant. Click Begin This Step. Then, please read this covenant agreement carefully, as this outlines the important responsibility you will have to meet the expectations of a local church associate for your church. To signify your understanding, complete the covenant by entering Yes in this box and clicking I agree. After you have completed the LCA covenant step, a green check mark will appear indicating completion. Click Home to download the local church Safe Sanctuary software. Clicking this Safe Sanctuary's LCA software download button will direct you to the web page where you may download and install the needed software for your computer. This is your LCA management software. You only need to download and install this on the computer you will use to do your LCA management functions. Your church volunteers will be using a separate website for their Safe Sanctuaries processing. This software runs on both Windows and Mac computers. If you need to download and install this software to a second computer, the simplest way is to forward the provided email with the website link to an email address that can be accessed from that second computer. Click this Local Church Install Now button and when given the option to open or save this file, click Open. And then click Install, followed by Continue. Read any additional alert your computer provides you and click Open or any other prompt that proceeds with the installation process. Once downloaded and installed, Mission Connect Local Church may open as shown here, depending on your indications during the installation process. After downloading and installing the Mission Connect Local Church software, you can run the program and use your same username and password to access your local church Safe Sanctuaries Associate management settings and processes. For the purposes of this example, we are going to close Local Church. We're also going to close this web page and return to the Safe Sanctuaries application. When you are finished, click Log Off in the upper right corner of the application and watch for some learning opportunities for LCAs to be announced in the near future.
Okay, how did that look? Okay? Pretty straightforward, I hope. On page 13, this is the exact content of the email that you'll receive as a LCA, and it identifies the steps that you need to do. 2 big steps, just kind of to reinforce here, is that you must be Conference Safe Sanctuary certified already, and it has that up there on the screen. It'll let you know whether you are or not. If you are, you'll be able to proceed to the second step, which is completing the LCA covenant. So those are the two steps. After those are completed, you'll get to be what is called an approved LCA in the software, and it'll show up as approved. Once you're approved, then you have access to the software that's to manage the online processes for your church. You'll download that software, and the software is going to give you some opportunities. I'm thinking that there's a page, I'm not sure if it'll be in here or not. Actually, yeah, we're not quite there. So let's flip through the pages that are going to be what we just saw in the video. Page 15 is where in the email you received your login. So you're receiving your own username and password. So you're going to put that in. And I want to say in previous trainings, we said that every LCA was going to have a code. So what that is the login. It's your username and your password. So just a little bit of wording and technicality there, but that messed somebody up earlier. They thought they were having some kind of code. The code is your login. That's what we're talking about. On page 16, you'll see where the local church associate under My Certification Records is in process. So that's not a completed yet. The SS online process is for their Safe Sanctuary Conference certification, and it says in process. So you'll need to click those continue steps if it's in process. That means something's not done. Now for some of you, I know we've seen you coming through, and some have been certified before, some have been getting certified this summer, which has been excellent. So it won't say continue, it'll have your certification expiration date. So that step will be done, and you can go to the in-process local church associate. That'll definitely be in process because you'll need to click continue to go to the covenant. If you go to page 17, that has the green check if you are conference certified or once you become conference certified. If you need to do conference certification, that could take up to 2 weeks. A lot of times it's faster than that. It depends on how quick the background screen comes back, the references get in, how long it takes for people to do training. Okay, on page 18, you saw that up there. This is the LCA covenant statement, and you can read through that. There's a couple of real important sort of concepts in there. As you all know, we really very much need you to handle the information you are going to see from applicants in a very confidential manner. And it kind of talks about your agreement to do that. We are also, the background screens are under the umbrella of the conference account, and so we're responsible for how background screened information is being handled out in the local church. So just kind of want to reemphasize the importance, and I know you all have been selected by your pastors because you're very responsible people, but
Well said. And I just want to point out, this is one of those places where we are counting on you. We really are. We are a connectional system because we're all at liability if some of this information gets out in ways that are not appropriate or legal. So you are here because your pastors think that you have that ability to maintain confidence, and it is a real responsibility that we're giving to you that will ultimately affect all of us. So thank you for accepting that responsibility.
So page 19, after you agree to the covenant, you'll have the green check. So you see that the conference certification and the covenant have been done. If you go to page 20, after those two steps are done, under My Certification Record, it says conference, and it has this, that it shows that it's certified and what the expiration date is. And then under Local Church Associate, it shows that you're now an approved LCA. So then you are able to click on the button that says Download Local Church Safe Sanctuary Software. And a couple things I want to say about that step. That software, like they said in the video clip, you'll be able to download that on your computer if you need to use it at home or a church computer, wherever is convenient for you that you're going to use it. You can have it on more than one computer. I also want to say we've had a couple questions come up from people about this. So just to make sure that it's really clear, for the volunteers that are you're going to initialize or start them on their training, they do not have to be at the same computer that you're at. So the whole thing with, cloud technology and the internet is they can complete online training at their home or wherever they're accessing their computer and their internet. So somebody had a little bit of a confusion about that and thought that the volunteers had to meet them at the church or something. So it's very user-friendly and really convenient, and most people love the convenience of that. So page 21, I'm not sure that this page was in the video, and this is really key because this is what you're going to have access to once you download the local church software. It'll tell you at the top all requirements are completed. You may now use the program for conference and for local church certification. Now, this is important steps that you'll need to proceed to do next, based on what your church has decided in their review. On the left, it says we will be using the conference-provided software for our local church safe sanctuary certifications and for conference certification. So if you decided that, you'd go ahead and select that radio button. And then you'll also want to indicate in this example that the church will use references for local church certification. The opposite is to the right. Some churches will only be using the software for conference certifications, and they won't be using it for local church. And so they are using the software only to initialize people when they need conference certification. But they have, maybe they have a process in place for doing local church training that they want to continue doing the way they've been doing it. So like we said, it's an option, and that's something the church decides how they want to proceed on that. And then also it's an option whether the church is going to use references. Under other requirements, this is where we were getting kind of deluged with people wanting to send us utility bills, and we asked you to kind of hold off on that. So now in the software, you're going to be able to upload the utility bill to us. If you've already sent it in and we've been communicating with you about a branch account, you won't need to do that again, okay? And if you have any questions, I brought my list today, so at the end, if you want to check, I can tell you where we're at in that. But your software should show that information preloaded when you download it. Our IT person worked with us, and you should be able to tell where you're at with that, but I think, we'll be in communication as needed to help with that. Yes? I have no idea what you're talking about. Okay. Let's go to, we have some resources, and I really appreciate that question. It was kind of hard to know how to organize the flow of the training today, because I think different people have different pieces of the information. If you go to page 53, it outlines what we need in terms of the utility bill. And in order to set up the background screening account with the background screening company, we have to send them a utility bill from your church. And what they are doing is verifying where the church does business, like they want that address. So what we did was have the software built to help facilitate people sending us the information that we're going to need. And so some churches have already been getting with their treasurers or whatever and sending us utility bills. A couple things we've learned through the process we put on this handout that are really important. And we've learned by maybe sending a utility bill and then it got hung up for a while at the screening company and it came back to us, kind of rejected. So we found out that they want a really current utility bill. So within the last 60 days is real important. The post office box isn't sufficient. They really want like a street address, or some utility bills I've seen, it'll say a service address. And it helps, and we may work with you on this if it doesn't match, but we are looking in our database. So sometimes the address that's in there, if it doesn't match, then there's, a discrepancy we have to kind of resolve. And some churches have found out, and a pastor will say, well, people tell me here that the address that was here was incorrect and now it's different or whatever. So it's kind of good because we're clearing up some of that and getting all that straightened out. But it's also required in order to get your account set up with the background screen company. Also, be careful if you copy or something to upload it. like if it's real grayed out, think about, that somebody over at the screening company has to be able to read it. So, just some things like that. Anything else I need to say about that? I think that's mostly it on the utility bill. So once it goes through the background screening company, we get a branch account number. And what they've been doing is sending an email to the church. So it'll come from the background screening company, which is LexisNexis, and it'll say welcome, and it'll have as the LCA, your contact name, and it'll have a branch account number on it. And they're supposed to be also copying me on the email. We have about 60 branch accounts that are set up or in process now already. So we're that far along. But I think that's basically that. So in the software, if you look down on page 21, you go back to page 21. I'm going to skip down to this. If you go to the bottom of the page, there's notes from Safe Sanctuary Office. And right above that, it says LexisNexis branch account for Emerald UMC. That's where we enter the branch account number. And we had the option of setting this up a couple different ways. Just for going forward and getting started, I felt like it might be better for the Safe Sanctuary Office to put that number in so we can kind of help monitor the flow of the process until we get it down. Eventually, we might let people enter that as they get their email. But there's so many steps in this, we kind of wanted to keep an eye on how things are flowing. So if you go back up where it said upload utility bill, so you're uploading the utility bill, and it says the following information will be provided to LexisNexis so we can get your branch account number going. Down there, past that paragraph, it says upload local church safe sanctuary policy, and there's a click to view. So you can upload your policy electronically. You'll be able to upload that with that button. And also you'll be able to see what's out there. So say 6 months or a year from now, when you review your policy, if you make a change, you'll be able to check, you'll say, gee, a month ago, I think I put the latest policy up there. You'll be able to look and see. So be sure you date your policy, of what it was. Make sure you put your church name at the top of your policies. We've seen some policies and it'll just say, Methodist Church or whatever. And it's just really helpful if it says, La Plata Methodist Church or whatever, make sure you say what your church name is, because we're seeing, we just see a lot of them coming in, and it's just really good to know what church the policy is for.
Would it be helpful also to put the district label on there, since there are multiple Grace United Methodist and Wesley Methodist?
One thing I've learned in this process that I'm trying to do is put Grace, and then in parentheses the town, and then UMC. And I've had to work really closely with the background screening company because sometimes they were just putting Grace and then Columbia, Missouri, because of the Missouri conference. Everybody was Columbia. And I said, it's not going to work because we have, multiple Christs and multiple firsts. So I'm trying to, help them learn that we got to have the town. I think the town would probably be most helpful. If you wanted to put the district too, that would be fine. I mean, I think the more information is really helpful. You almost can't do too much information, really. So.
Quick question: is only the LCA allowed to upload this stuff, or can the church secretary or the pastor?
Whoever has a login code will be able to do it. So, but really, you are the only ones that are going to have access at the beginning. Some churches are giving multiple people, like 1 or 2 people, or themselves and the pastor have the ability to log in. And that's kind of helpful in case somebody, is on vacation and somebody needs to be initialized for conference because they're going to camp next week. It's kind of good to have some kind of backup plan, I think. On the next one, some churches do have a covenant form that they have their volunteers complete. So you are able to upload the covenant and people can also view that. So a lot of churches requested that while we were trialing it, that they really liked the idea of being able to be sure their volunteers all saw their, required policies and things like that. Let's see, on page 22, this is what the software screens look like. So like for your church, it'll have your church name where it says Emerald UMC, It'll say whatever your church is, like Grace or First UMC, it'll have that up there. On the left-hand side is who are the people in your church, where it says SS Online. So that's anybody that you initialize or may have started online process. And it says in process. So those are the people that are not finished yet, but they started. Under where it says Safe Sanctuary Conference and then certified, those are people who maybe, any time prior to this, in the last year or, however long ago, have gone through conference certification and they're certified. So, and then under other church members, anybody that would happen to be in the database, say like from a charge conference form, they went in and the district offices have them in there because they were on a committee, they'll show up in there, but they won't have any certification because they didn't do a safe sanctuary process. But if they're in the database, their name will be listed there, and that's kind of a shortcut that if they do decide to be safe sanctuary certified, you'll be able to select them from the list. You'll also have a way to add people if they're not on that list, but that's how you know whoever is, from your church, whoever is in the database already. On the right-hand side, in the center section here, there's a lot of information there. The personal information, so that's going to be the person's address, date of birth. Down below under records, that shows that this particular person, who his name happens to be Fish, Fife House, it shows that he is in process on his certification record, and it also shows that he's going to be an LCA and he's in process on that. Under the process steps, it has initialized and the date that was initialized. So that's the date that you send out the email to your volunteer to get them started. That date will show up in the database. When they fill out their application form, when they log in online and complete those steps, that date comes into the database. So you'll be able to kind of monitor their progress and see that they completed that on September 18th. They paid their processing fee on September 18th. Their background screen was authorized on the 19th. So there's a consent form that the volunteers read or the learners read, and they have to agree that their screen can be authorized, and then that will send it off to the background screening company. So once we have your once we have your branch account set up with the screening company, that step will work, but not until we get your branch account set up. So that's probably a really, really important point, timing-wise, to make sure to know that we got to get your branch account set up. And that can take, I would say, 3 to 4 weeks is probably what I'm seeing right now. They have assigned another person to us because we've explained we're going to have hundreds of accounts coming in. So I think their goal is to have it like within a 2-week time frame that we'll be able to get your branch account set up. And it does depend a lot on the utility bill and that street address being legible and matching and all those kind of things. So, okay, the next line, training. There's 8 training chapters, and it would show complete if the person had completed that. So, or if they did 3 chapters, it'll say 3 of 8 completed. So you'll be able to see that. And the church policy, if they've read that, that'll be checked off as completed here. It'll show if the pastor has completed the reference. It would show complete instead of not started. The general reference, same thing. And then you will check off the all steps completed. And Chris is going to go over some of this part about processing here in just a minute. You have on here the ability to resend the password to Fish Fife House if somehow he misplaces it, forgets it, wrote it down somewhere and the dog ate his piece of paper. If he doesn't remember his username, you'll be able to click display username and have his username and tell him what that is. Another slick button here is the one called print all. And we're going to go through in a little bit how you prepare for a certification meeting, certification authority meeting. That print all button will print all of the documents here for an applicant's file. So you'll be able to, take them for the meeting. I think that's on that page.
Okay, I am going to go over how first we'll do the applicant. This will be what the person sees when you send that email out to them. They will get a link in their email, and they're going to click that link. And on page 24, they're going to log in with the username and password that they will receive in the email. Page 25. That's going to be where they're going to start, and they're going to go down through each step. They're going to fill out their application form. They're going to pay their processing fee. A new item that we have in the software is when the LCA, when you go in and put somebody into the system, you will have the step where you can pay for that person if that's what your church decides to do. Some churches have the people pay as part of their ministry, part of their tithe, but if your church wants to pay for that person for any reason, you will have a chance to do that. But on the step, they will either show that that's been done, or they will need to do it at that time. They will not be able to go further to the process unless that step 2 is done. $30. It's $30. Step 3. Yes.
If they can't pay at that time, and you want to pay for them as a local church, would you have to be with them as a computer?
No, they won't be able to go any further, but they could call you or get in contact with you. You can go into your portion of the software and pay for that. Push the pay button and have a chance to do that. It will accept, I believe it goes through PayPal, so it's Visa, MasterCard, things like that. Step 3, they're going to authorize their background screening. Page 26 is showing how the applicant knows that their items are done. It'll just be just like the LCA. There'll be a green check for every step that they do. That way they know they've completed that step. Page 27 is going to be your application information. The top part is, there are a couple of new things that we've worked with our conference chancellor on. Chair, I don't know if you were going to go over that piece.
Now, these are some statements, legal statements, that we felt needed to be in there. The first one is a waiver of right to review. And the person has to agree to this or they cannot go any farther in the process. And basically, as you can read, what it says is that they do not have a right to inspect or have any of the information that's in their file, or to be told the reason why they are not being certified. And this has directly to do with the references that people send in. We guarantee confidentiality to our references. If we did not, we would not get accurate and honest information. And the only way that we get that is by guaranteeing the confidentiality of that information. And I'll just tell you up front, I mean, people will say, I have a right to know. Legally, they do not. Our conference chancellor he's the one that put this statement together. And while it may be difficult for them to understand and they don't think it's fair, if we shared reference information, then we would not get any honest references. So that I'll be talking a little bit about some of that here a little bit later, but they have to agree to that. And as you can see, it's before they put their social security number or any of their information in. And we did that on purpose so that they know up front what to anticipate. And so if they choose not to agree to that, they cannot go any farther in the process. And they have to agree to that they have read, understand, and agree with the statement. The next one is that they've read the application and the policy and all the contents of the policy and acknowledge to accept these best practices. And so that on the conference level is our conference policy, and on the local church level, it will be your local church policy that they have to agree that they have read and understand. And again, these are ways that we, can say later that you were informed and you agreed to abide by these. And the next one is also a recognition that their certification can be revoked on a finding of a failure to follow best practices for protecting children, youth, and vulnerable adults. And we have had to revoke some certifications. And so here they're acknowledging that that's a possibility if they don't follow best practices. And part of your role as the local church, and again, we'll talk a little bit about this later, is to define what those best practices are for your local church, and we do for the conference.
Okay, so on the page, bottom of 27, that's going to be the application where they fill out all of their information, their name, address, things like that.
One point, I'll just interrupt for just a second and say that it is important, if you look towards the bottom, they do have to put their social security number in, and that's how the background screen is run. So occasionally, we've come up with people who don't really like providing their social security number. So that's just kind of a heads up to be aware of that comes up sometimes. But we really cannot run the background screen unless we have that. And really, most of our volunteers don't have a problem with that. Most of them go ahead and do the social security number. But so just so that you're kind of aware of that.
Page 28 is going to be self-disclosure questions. When you are processing the files as an LCA, these are going to be questions that you want to look over. And when you click the application button, this piece will come up. If you see any yeses, that's going to indicate to you that there might be a question about the application. When I process a file, if I see any yes on this, I automatically put it into the issue folder. Even if it's not going to be an issue later, that still means Nancy and I need to look at that further and decide if the certification authority needs to take a look at this file or if it's okay to go on. So when you're looking down these, you need to make sure all of them say no. Page 29, this is going to be when they request their references. In our new software, applicants will only be able to choose a pastor from their church. We've had a couple of issues where folks have tried to go around their pastor, things like that. So they will only be able to choose a pastor at the church. If the pastor doesn't feel like they know that person well, the pastor's only been there a couple of months, the pastor can send that to another paid staff member, the youth leader, children's ministry leader. They can forward the reference on for that person to fill that reference out for you.
I want to also explain one thing on a pastor reference. We've had a couple questions lately about this, and a pastor might have gotten reassigned, in July, or have a new church. They've only been there a short amount of time. We still do encourage the pastor to fill out that reference. Like somebody said, well, can I send it to the previous pastor because they know me better? And really, there's kind of an official sort of cutoff there. So it doesn't go to the previous pastor, like we always start new. So it goes to the current pastor, even though they haven't been there very long. And another option for them is to talk to other leaders in the church, and be able to write, I may not know this person very well, but the people I've talked to, I feel very comfortable recommending them. And so they could just write a note to that effect until they get to know their people a little bit better.
Question.
Yes.
What if the person is not a certified pastor, they're a lay speaker, or other person in charge of that church?
That's fine. Whoever's in charge of the church.
Whoever's serving in the pulpit there. Okay, so now I'm going to go back into you as the LCA processing the files. So I'm kind of working here on page 22 and page 31. Page 22, so you have initialized your person. You're going to look at their application. You need to make sure that all of those disclosure questions say no. You're going to look at their background screen, and I'll go on to that on page 31.
Krista?
Yes.
One thing that might not be real obvious, like I'm not sure I said this earlier, if you click on the button on page 22, if you click on where it says APPL application, then that's going to open the application just like you had that piece of paper in front of you with all those questions. So that's when we're saying you'll be able to see the self-disclosure questions, and if they marked it all no, or if there's a yes. Same thing with background where it says BKGRD. If you click on that, that'll pull up a screen that'll show you the background results. So that's kind of a slick thing. And we do hundreds of these all the time, and it's hard to think about what to tell you all about the detail, but that's kind of a neat thing. When you click on that, you can see it right there. And the same thing if the reference had been completed. It's going to open up right there, and you'll get to see the reference and how it was marked and completed.
Right. So when you do, well, you want to make sure they've done all training chapters, all 8 training chapters. The references, you'll go in and look at the references. You want to make sure every answer says always. If there's any other answer than always, you do need to put that into your issue file. Although it may not be an issue, you need to go back and review that file and make sure everything is clear. Nancy and I work together on if anything is marked other than always, then we go back and look at it to see if the certification authority needs to look at the file further, or if we decide that it's okay at that point, on both pastor and the general reference. So I'm going to go to page 31, and this is the background screenings. These are going to be learn as you go a little bit. You have to kind of wade your way through the waters on these, but I'm going to give you a few guidelines that we go by. 31 is going to be the page that you'll see when you click on that background screen button. So on this one, it shows that this person has passed all 3 searches that we've done. The Social Security verification, the county search, and the database search. So all of those have come back clear. So this person I would go ahead and put into a file for Nancy to review. You guys would go ahead and certify that person, and I guess send them a letter. We're going to give you some sample things to send out.
Let me say one thing, just to clarify what the 3 parts, what you will receive on a background screen. The standard package that the conference has, and we have a package rate that's a very good rate for this that you guys also are going to benefit from by having this branch account. The Social Security verification is called the identity verification, and we'll talk about some detail about that in just a minute. But then where it says St. Charles County, we always get one county, usually the county where the person has lived the longest. And in the industry, they call that longest and strongest, so that's where you're going to get your best information. Where it says database search, there's always a national criminal check that's done that includes the national sex offender check. So there's 3 parts to the background screen that you'll get, and you want to be able to see all 3 of those. Sometimes on the ID verification or Social Security, that's where occasionally a wrong name will show up. Were you going to talk about that a little bit? Okay, so Chris is going to explain about that. But I just wanted you to know there's 3 parts that we do. So the identity verification, the national criminal check that includes national sex offender, and then 1 county. Those are the 3 parts that will come back.
Yes.
Our insurance company wants us to do a national check. Does this constitute what would be a national
Yes.
check?
Mm-hmm.
Yes. This includes a national check for your insurance company. Yes. Yes.
Our church is loaded with social workers, counselors, award-winning social workers.
Yes.
When they get to this process,
Yes. We have that actually on page 68. We had someone ask that. So this will be in your FAQ. We would recommend teachers and law enforcement and anyone that is going through background screening process to still do the Safe Sanctuaries training. And on the conference level, they will still have to do the Safe Sanctuaries training. Legally, the local church is responsible to ensure their volunteers are screened, and we are not able to accept screening completed by other entities. Also, these volunteers need to have an opportunity to learn and be familiar with their local church Safe Sanctuary process, as well as the conference process. The training, as in law enforcement, is going to not be exactly the Safe Sanctuaries training that we're needing these folks to have. So yes, they will still need to do the Safe Sanctuaries training. Yes,
Yeah.
yes.
And that is a frequent question, that teachers have a lot of background screening they go through regularly. And so we just say, we're sorry, but yes, you have to do it again. And it's part of helping us keep children and youth safe. So, Yeah, but you'll hear that question quite often, I think.
Yes. Page 32. This is going to be an example of when you open up the background screening and you see under Social Security verification that we need to review that. Something has come up. So the background screening is letting us know that we need to go in. Right above that in the blue, it says link to LexisNexis. You're going to push that button. It's going to take you out to their website. So that shows on page 33 that it's bringing that person's file up for you. A name discrepancy has been found. That one is going to be the one you see the most. Sometimes it's because that person has put in their wrong social security number by accident. So that's the first place I check. I call the applicant and I say, I just need to verify your social security number, or I send them an email having them call me. And we just verify that, and it's going to show what social security number they've typed in. You also will be able to see that on their application. So you check with that. Now, if it is different than what their social security number is, you will need to rerun that background screen, and I will show you how to do that. Another item might be that someone has gotten something mixed up in the system, or they may have identity theft. So at that point, if the social security number does match, but there's a different name on their background screen coming back, they need to call LexisNexis and get that straightened out. You will not be able to do that for them. So you will have a phone number to give them to call and get that straightened out. A lot of times it's just that something in the system has accidentally pulled the wrong name. That's what Nancy and I see the most, is that it's just pulling back a wrong name. LexisNexis will work to get their name corrected on their screen. Sometimes that can take 2 or 3 weeks, and then you have to rerun it again to get that correct name back into your file. Page 34. This is someone that had an issue, and you went into the background screening company, and it says that there was a county seat felony and misdemeanor. See the red flag there? You want to click on that just to see what's going on. This one says it's failure to register their vehicle, and it's going to show that they pleaded guilty and their sentence was a fine. This may not be a reason why you would deny someone, but I would still put that in the issue file. And Nancy and I will either discuss on going ahead and certifying that person, or we would let the certification authority decide. Depends on the severity of what is in this record. Most likely this one we would go ahead and certify, because
One thing that kind of helps me is when it says charge type and it says misdemeanor. So like that's kind of a really good clue. It doesn't mean how you're going to decide, but if it says misdemeanor, or it might say felony, so felony is going to be more serious. So that's one thing just to kind of help weigh how serious was it.
it would be on the court system, yes. You will be able to see all of that. Yeah.
I think it makes you want to slow down when you're driving, doesn't it?
Yes, so nobody in the church knows that you've been speeding. Page 37. This is where you're going to be able to request a new background screen if, say, the person typed in their social security number wrong.
Page 36.
Did I say the wrong number?
Okay.
Page
You're on
36.
36?
Yes,
Okay.
page 36. How you get to this is on your main screen. At the bottom, there's going to be an edit button. You push that, and then under the background piece, it says background utility, I think UTIL there. You push that button, and this yellow box will show up. The social security number that they typed in is going to be in that box already. If you need to change that, you'll push the little pencil there. That's going to allow you to edit that number. You can push save then. And then if you're ready to resubmit that background screening, you push submit. Then you close that out, and then the front page that you have, it will say resubmitted and then the date. So it will help you, remind you on that file that you have resubmitted that, and you just need to be checking back for those results within the next week or so. Page 37, this is going to be how you request if you want to go out to your files out on LexisNexis site. You're going to enter your name and ID number there. They'll be giving that all to you in your email that you'll receive from them. Page 38. This is going to be where your all your files that you've ran are. I think it goes back 90 days. So all the people that you've ran within the past 90 days will be in the system saved for you. You can search for someone. You can, there in the middle of the page it says range. When you drop that down, I think it gives you a 30-day period, 60-day, 90-day. So you can search for the people within the last 30 days that you've ran. You'll click on their name, and on page 39, it'll bring up the folks that you have ran within that past 30 days. You can push on that person's name there on page 39. And so on page 40, it's going to bring up the record for you. So if you were, for some reason you couldn't go into their file normally through the software, you can go out into the, on the website to LexisNexis website and look for those people there. Did you have a question, ma'am? You will be able to, yes. You'll click on the background screening button. It will show you. Right. It will get you to, well, it's going to show you on page, page 32. When you push that, that's what will come up. But if you happen to need to go to LexisNexis website for some reason, then this is how you would pull your people up. If something random happens with the system, you can just go to the LexisNexis website instead of using the file. Right.
If everything is clear on those three parts, it'll say pass on each step, and then that's fine.
You won't need to go out to the look at their screen.
But if it says, like Krista said, where it said review or something like that, then you'll click and it'll show you.
It'll automatically take you there.
On the hyperlink.
Yes.
It'll take you out there.
Yes. So on page 40, it just shows you your screen that you pulled up on your on the website. And Nancy, did you want to do the next part?
Actually, what time? So I was wondering, maybe we'd want to do the certification authority part after lunch. Start.
Okay.
Are there any questions at this point about what we've covered so far?
Go ahead.
So I start the process, how many days are you given to complete the process, or, go through all the training?
The applicant
Is there a
person?
set number?
90 days.
I think it's 90 days that the applicant file is current. We really encourage, and since you guys will have kind of an opportunity, maybe a little bit closer opportunity to encourage them to do it as timely as possible, because it feels like when people get too far away from it, then it's so hard. I mean, they forget and they don't know where their password is, and just
Well,
yeah.
and the reason being, if it's 90 days, I want to tell somebody closer than that.
Yeah, you have 30 days.
Yeah, because then they have to start over and pay again
pay
and things like
again.
that.
Okay, and that's what point
Yeah.
I want to get at.
Yeah.
I don't want to go through the pain.
Right.
Yeah.
Right.
And tell them too, if they, really remind them to keep track of their password and their login, because if they do start one day and then they have to go back in and finish, they can log back in and they don't have to pay again, as far as getting it done if they don't get it done all in one session. So the software is very user-friendly, and what we see is people usually go through all the steps, and sometimes they're all completed. Sometimes we're just waiting for one reference form to come in. And sometimes that's, it just happens to be that, if you think about the reference forms, it gets emailed to somebody and they have to check their email box and get it back. A common thing to know, and you might remind people, is sometimes the emails will go to somebody's spam folders or junk mail, or if the email wasn't right, they may not have gotten it. So we regularly tell people, call and tell somebody that you're asking for them to get a reference and it's coming to their, just helps kind of facilitate that flow.
I didn't see it on here, but where did they put in their general reference other than the pastor? Because that's one of the two, right?
Right, it'll be in that order. I'm sorry, it'll be in that order that they have in the software. I don't think it has a picture in here of that, but it will be in that order, and it will say references. They'll click on that button. They'll pull a drop-down box of their pastor, so they'll choose that. And then their general reference, they'll need to know that person's email address so they can type it in.
How does the applicant access the training?
The applicant's going to receive an email, and within that email, they're going to have a username and a password and a link. They'll click on the link, and then it'll bring them to where they need to log in, and it'll start the file from there.
I have a lot of people in my congregation.
I'll just say up front, it is our anticipation that this process is user-friendly enough that the majority of folks can use it.
Not everybody has internet.
No, I know, and I'm going to address that.
We can finish.
We realize that there are some areas of the state that the access is a little bit more difficult to come by. So what we're recommending is that there are other places where they can find internet access, like the library, the district office, somebody's home. There are other places, where they can go to do that. So if it's a process of internet access, we would recommend those places first. They can come if they're close enough. They can come to the conference office. We've had people come in there and use one of our computers. District offices will allow that to happen to other local churches that are in the neighborhood that has internet access. They can go and use one of their computers there. If it is a process, an issue where the person really is struggling with the technology, then those same places, often some of our district administrators or pastors or friends can help them. It is a very user-friendly process. We've had folks come to the conference office and sit down, and one of our staff will help them through. We have some people in our conference who used to be our live trainers who have also gone and worked with some of these folks to help them with the process. And what often happens is the person discovers that it's not as difficult as they thought, and they've learned a new skill, and they're actually very happy. So we will work with the situations, but again, it is our anticipation that everybody is going to be using the online process with some assistance in those ways that I have stated. So